You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Okay, here we go. Friday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill, Hall of Fame weekend. How we doing, Rosie?
Friday means nothing to me anymore. My kids have Friday and Monday and Tuesday off for Remembrance Day. You ever getting a 5-day weekend for Remembrance Day? Because I sure don't.
Yeah, I mean, not to make too much commentary on it, but I've seen 7 people wear poppies, so we're getting days off now, I guess.
Where's mine?
You've had it.
You've
had it on though, but no, I don't remember a time in school where we got days off for Remembrance Day, like multiple days off. Is that what they're doing now?
It's like 3 days off, and I'm like, why? And they're just like, Remembrance Day. Nothing against Remembrance Day. It's as good as excuse as any, but man, they just never go to school anymore. It's crazy. And I woke up with 3 inches of snow on the ground today.
Oh,
just
no.
white. Just white.
Oh.
It's gonna be 14 later, so I'm not shoveling shit. I think it's just going to melt away, and hopefully, I'm just delaying the inevitable, man. Winter's tough for me. I can't wrap my head around it, but she's coming.
It's draining, man. It's like, even here, it's November 7th, and you can feel it's just around the corner, and the weather's starting to turn. It's always cold and rainy today, and I even saw, looking at the weather app before coming on the show, like there's traces of snow that could be lingering around the GTA coming up on Sunday. Man, I'm still in summer mode. Like, I love summer. I love the beach. I love that type of weather. And winter is only great in my perspective because of hockey, and I affiliate the two. But man, it gives you a bad mood, I feel,
I just think it takes the transition's tough. You got to take a minute to wrap your head around it. And once it does, you go skidooing and skiing, and the hockey takes over your whole life. But anyway, the Leafs are on a 3-game tear, so we have more positive things to talk about.
Well, that's a good point. Imagine the Leafs are still playing like dog shit, and it was November, and it was about snow. But luckily, we're not in that department right now, so that's good news. But I wanted to get your thoughts off the top. You talked about Canada. We're all proud to be Canadian here on this show. New jerseys. I mean, it's such a different era, not to be a dinosaur, but every time there's a major event, we got new Canadian jerseys. We had the Four Nations jerseys last year. If you do recall, they were released. Everybody hated them. Then they got on the ice. They looked good on the ice. What do you make of these new Olympic jerseys?
Yeah, they're definitely tweaked. There's a lot going on X about it, and I don't have the kind of hate that some people do. Like, some people want people shot for them, which is a little bit aggressive. But
I'd say,
and everyone's mad that they go with the black. I mean, how many variations of red and white can you have? So the blacks, I've always thought red and black looks sharp together, just like in general. So I get why you go there. But, with a big organization like Hockey Canada, there's going to be a committee about the jerseys. And if they're just like, let's do the same one, they have to, they feel the need, they have to put their mark on it. Did they miss the mark a little bit? Maybe they're a little bit too aggressive. I also agree with people going back to the early 2000s ones, just the classic Hockey Canada logo, which has black in it, would be great for me too. But I don't get that worked up about him. I'd like to see him on the ice and with the players on him. But I do like the thought of having some continuity from teams in the past and like knowing that that's Canada. But this day and age, everyone's got to kind of reinvent the wheel anytime you do anything. So I don't love them, but I'm not as passionate about some of the people out there.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out where our color scheme introduced the color black. But you're right. I think in hockey, it's been a thing for years. Like, I'm wearing this. I think it's from the 2010 team. Like, I bought a couple of these. They're awesome. And I love the Olympic sweaters back in 2010. Crosby, the golden goal. But for some reason, they're really fascinated by the color black, how it looks on the ice with the Canadian colors. And I get it. I mean, you're pretty stretched for content ideas when it's just red and white. But I'm old school where it's like, man, if it just works, keep it. But every year, like, how many variations? You're so right. How many variations can we see? Like, imagine the Swedes, the difficult time they have trying to put a jersey together every time, right?
Well, exactly. And the ones they came out with, I thought looked pretty sharp. I
Yeah.
have yet to see the others. I just saw the Swedes. No, the Finns. Maybe no, the Finns dropped first. I saw them
Yeah.
and then Canada. That's
Yeah.
all I've seen. But my feed was covered in the Canadian stuff, and people were hot under the collar. I wasn't. Yeah, I don't know what my thought is. You're on the Olympic stage, world stage, kind of have some continuity with it and have kind of a logo that you sort of stick to. I don't know. It's got the leaf on there. It's pretty sharp. It's kind of 3D looking logo. I don't really care. Just win the goddamn hockey tournament is all I'm really concerned about. Not the clothes you wear when you walk in or the jersey you wear when you're playing. I like how it's Bauer, old school too, rather than like
Yeah.
Fanata, all the other stuff. Bauer, let's go old school. I like that.
We're under, I think, 3 months away from these Olympic Games. Where's your interest level? Because last year we had the Four Nations. I think for me, it's more so on the personnel. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not that excited for Olympics. We just saw best on best last year. Like, I think if we hadn't seen the Four Nations, I'd be more ramped up, more pumped up. I hate the fact that you go from watching the Four Nations where you're allowed to hit, you're allowed to body check, obviously, you're allowed to fight. It's a different game in the IIHF and the Olympic game. Like, to my understanding, I think there's going to be a mix of NHL refs and IIHF refs, but I think the product's going to be a lot different. And for me, that rampens down my excitement almost to the level where we have some time off in February. I might go to Mexico or something. I'll be honest about that.
Mm-hmm. I don't think you're going to be able to skate within 30 centimeters of the puck carrier without taking a penalty, which is going to piss me off.
Great. Yeah.
I called the Four Nations Cup the Nobody Cares Cup before, like weeks before, right? Like,
yeah.
How interested are you in this made up tournament that has no provenance, that has no history? And I'm just like, not very. At least we'll get to see so-and-so play together. And then they came out with it, and it just blew the doors off of the whole hockey world. It was unbelievable. And then everyone's like, can you imagine how unreal this is going to make the Olympics? And I'm like, now I'm prepared for a bit of a letdown for the Olympics because,
yes,
like you said, those reps over there are horrendous. The big Olympic-sized sheet. Am I excited about it right now? No, but I will ramp up once it gets going. The week before, holy shit, the Olympics are coming here. Big break for hockey in general, and I think all eyes will be on it, certainly, and just the Olympics in general. I like watching that stuff, especially the winter ones where we're actually a factor in it. So, yeah, not yet, but soon I will be, and I hope it's great hockey. I don't want to lose to the Americans or anybody else, but it'll be fun. It'll be interesting. I'll ramp up as it comes.
It's going to be an NHL rink, by the way, as far as I know,
really?
in Milan Cortina. But I think the intrigue for me is about the roster. And there's a lot of excitement in this country with some of the younger kids. And I just wonder how different the roster could look from the one we saw at the Four Nations. Like, I don't know how much you've had a chance to watch Macklin Celebrini out in San Jose. Dude, this guy is unbelievable. Connor Bedard's having a great year for Chicago. I just wonder how they mold and put their roster together, knowing that it's maybe going to be a tad different in terms of style and play than the Four Nations. Like, is Sam Bennett on the team? Is Hagel on the team? Is Brad Marchand on the team? Like, how do you leave? And I know the rosters are a bit bigger this time around, so it gives you the luxury of having like a Celebrini per se, but I wonder if the roster, how much it looks different, or does it?
Yeah, like I think you got to put into account the fact that this will be different style of hockey. Sorry, I didn't know it wasn't on the Olympic ice, which does change a little bit that time and space and everything else. Yeah, I don't imagine it's going to be as intense or physical, but down the stretch, during those later rounds where you start to get towards the medal games, the intensity will be there, and you're going to want competitors, and you're going to want guys with experience who have won big things and been in big situations before. It will be interesting to see how they build it. Again, I don't think you'll go as heavy and physical as a roster as you did for the Four Nations. And that was even more physical and intense than anyone ever imagined, I do believe. But we were happy we had the guys that we have. So it will be interesting. I would never want to be the guy to pick this roster because it's like the Ryder Cup. Like, no matter who you pick, you are cutting guys who A, deserve to be there, and B, could absolutely help your team win, and you're cutting them. Like, that's just the nature of the beast. There's only so many spots for so many good players for out there to potentially play for Canada. So I'm glad I don't have the job, but it will be interesting. Again, I think the the main theme is like who's going to play goal for us, because we're not as deep in net as some other countries, and that was the problem going into the Four Nations face-off. But Binnington stepped up and was a monster like he has when he won his Stanley Cup. And can you rely on that again, or is there anyone else that's more viable? How many goalies are you bringing? Who are you starting? Are you just going to go with the hot hand leading into the playoffs? A lot of question marks. Again, glad I don't have to solve them, but it's hard to say we're not as deep at goaltender when we won the whole shebang last time in the Four Nations. But can you get that out of a guy again, I think, is the question.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on the crease. And how about a scenario? I don't know when they have to announce the rosters. It could be sometime in January. But what happens if there's a guy who signed with Vegas about a month ago? What happens if December 1st he shows up and just plays like the guy at times we saw in Philadelphia, certainly saw in junior? Like, it is wide open when it comes to the crease. If you're speculating right now, I think Logan Thompson should be the first game starter. Jordan Binnington's been atrocious. Montembeau's been terrible. I think it's wide open, that pathway. Like, and I know it'll never happen. Carter Hart will never be on this Canadian team, but he, pound for pound, could be the best Canadian goalie right now and hasn't played in the NHL in 2 years. But I think it's wide open. I think by default, obviously Binnington's on the team and he's probably the number one, but he has not played good at all to start this season for the Blues, who are in shambles, man. You look around this league. I mean, a lot of friends of the show, Nashville going through things right now. Ryan O'Reilly's comments last night were insane. And then St. Louis scratching Jordan Kyrou last night, but they responded. So that's the good news there.
Did he cry? No. Yeah, lots of teams in Strugsy. I want to hear an interview from Stamkos, wondering what's going through his mind right now. But Ryan O'Reilly just tore himself to shreds. Basically said, I have one season in my career where I wasn't garbage, and it was brutal to hear. And then you see Schenner as well. It's funny, like Braden Shen was kind of like this young guy who did things right, and then just you blink your eyes and he's this veteran, shaking his head at the way things are going, and a guy that needs to take these young guys and teach them how to be competitive and get their compete level up and their intensity. And it's funny how fast it goes, but there's some veterans out there who are on teams that are not doing very well, and they're voicing their displeasure and trying to get things back on the rail. It's interesting, but I don't know what's going to happen. If you're going to take who's peaking right beforehand, are you going to wait till the 11th hour and peak right before you have to submit your roster and see who's hot at the time? Are you going to go with your gut? Are you going to go with experience? Are you just going to shadow the Four Nations team? Going to be really interesting for sure. And like you said, I think the goaltending situation is definitely up in the air, as some of the front runners, in people's minds, are not playing well at all this season and might not find it. So that'll cause a conundrum for Team Canada.
We're almost at a point where it's like, hey, Marc-Andre Fleury, what are you up to? Do you want to play on the Canadian Olympic team? Like that. I think if there's a reason why Canada doesn't win this tournament, it's probably the crease. I am scared shitless about it. Our Super Chat charity partner is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. You excited to watch David Kampf play for Czechia? Is that an excitement for you?
Yes, thrilling.
Okay,
Czechia, Kampfert.
Well,
he's been in the news lately, hasn't he?
Yeah, per Puckpedia, the Leafs actually suspended Kampf back on November 2nd without pay for departing their AHL affiliate while on assignment. Still waiting for something to happen here, man. It feels like Groundhog Day dating back to the end of training camp. But I guess the 1.25 cap hit, it's not being used right now, and I think the Leafs have that satisfaction, that luxury right now. But there's going to be a resolution at some point in time here.
Yeah, it's odd, man. I've seen that before, where a guy who expects to be in the league isn't. And when he signed that contract, I thought, what is with that dollar figure? Like, that is going to come back to haunt him.
Yeah.
Like that could lead him to being straight off the roster and them trying to get rid of the cap and all the rest, or the cap hit. But it's odd. You don't know what a player's going through and personally and where they're at with their career. I've seen it a million times, whether it's Andy Delmore or Chris Gratton or different guys that come down to the minors when I was there, where it's kind of unexpected. And, it usually is the best scenario when they go down there, they make the most of it. They be a professional, they be a veteran, they take care of the young kids. And show him the way, and that's usually how it goes. But obviously Kampfer is a little more pissed off about the situation. He wants to play in the NHL. He thinks he deserves it, and I'm not exactly sure what happened down there, what's going on, or who's running things, or who's talking to him. But it sounds like he just said, I need to just leave. I'm not going to play in this American League anymore, and I'm going to need some time to think, I guess. So he's gone and therefore suspended without pay. I'm not sure what the plan is, but of the few options that's going to happen, he's going to continue playing in the American League, and hopefully something changes and maybe he gets a chance to come up, or they just terminate his contract in general and he has a chance to go out there and sign with somebody else. Interesting enough, but obviously not a great spot for Camp and where he's at, as you don't walk away from a team very easily.
Yeah, that's got to be a kick in the pills, man. This guy views himself as an NHLer, has got an NHL contract, doesn't want to play in the AHL, and I think we're at a point where he's got to mutually terminate his contract. Imagine walking away from that type of dough. And I think ultimately that's what it comes down to. Do I resume my career and play in the AHL the next year and a half, or do I terminate my contract and sign and hope somebody wants to sign? I'm sure at this point his agent has sent feelers out there to say, hey, if my guy becomes a free agent, is anybody willing to sign him and play him in the NHL? At this point, I'm not sure. What I've seen from David Kampf the last year, I don't know who's chomping at the bit to sign this guy and put them on their NHL roster. I'm just not. And I think that they clearly have tried to trade this guy. Like there seems to be no bites, no takers, unless you're taking an ugly contract back. So what's the point of it? Bury the guy.
Basically. And I don't know, like I said, I've seen this before with bigger names, and like Kampfer, I don't know if he's got, do you have a leg to stand on to walk away from your team and leave millions on the table and demand that I get back to that league? Like it's a pretty good league with a lot of players that are not in the league who could be, or could maybe replace this guy or that guy. There's that overlap. And I don't know, for him to walk away from a team and leave a bunch of money on the table, it's pretty ballsy. Like, you're not a superstar, but I understand his sentiment of like, I believe I should be in the league and I provide something to a team. But yeah, okay, then it's up to you and your agent to go find that team, figure out who that is, and then make your decision. And like you say, behind the scenes, I'm sure they're sniffing around trying to figure out if there is an appetite for that. And if not, you go to the minors, you collect your money with no escrow on it, and you put it in the bank, and you keep the right attitude and keep your reputation in good standing, and then you go and see what you can do after a year and a half. It's shitty, but I don't know what causing this scene is going to do just walking away from the team and being suspended. I can't say that's the avenue that's probably going to lead to the best result for him.
I don't get the sense that Kampf is even the next call up from the AHL. Like obviously it's Cowan. I think Quillen's ahead of him, like Mermis on the blue line. And that's where I think the concerning part from Kampf is like, we've played our way out of Toronto, like the Maple Leafs, where we're not going to get called up if, say, two guys get hurt. And I think that's wherein lies the conversation about his future. But like, I mean, the same type of thing happened last year when they buried Ryan Reeves. And if I do recall, Reeves didn't show up initially, did show up, wrapped up the season, got traded in the offseason, but they had been working for a while for a resolution. I would anticipate something happens here, but for me, it's tough to grasp, and it always puts it into perspective how you can throw that type of money away if you're David Kampf. Maybe he cares that much about playing in the NHL right now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's always like, can you make more up? If you walk away from this, can you make it up elsewhere by extending your career in the NHL? And it's definitely a gamble, definitely rolling the dice. I remember back in my day, it was like, yeah, you could sign for like $250 in the minors as a veteran guy or whatever. But if you don't make the NHL team out of training camp, you have to clear re-entry waivers to get called up. Therefore, someone else could pick you up, and the original team has to pay half of your salary, so they'll never call you up. So all those guys in those situations took $105,000, which prevented you from going through re-entry waivers. And then the gamble was, I'll make it up by getting called up and being in the NHL more so. And it's just this dance and this roll of the dice and weighing the options and trying to predict the future, which is very difficult. But he might bet on himself and leave that contract on the floor, walk away from it, start fresh, and see if he can get back in the NHL. But I like you said, I really don't think he would do that unless he had some feeling that he could get back in there and there was some interest. But with that contract, weighing him down. There's no chance anyone's taking him. When he signed it, it's the one thing that Tree Living did where it just made no sense to me. Like, how do you give that much money to David Kampf?
Very baffling. He was coming off a pretty decent postseason, if I do recall, but I understand. And the cap hit's 2.4. With him in the AHL, it's 1.25. But as mentioned, the Leafs not paying that penalty right now because they've suspended Kampf, and we'll see what happens maybe over the course of this weekend. At the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Crave the Stats is a presentation of Uber Eats. Every time the Leafs play at home, you can get these exclusive deals only on Uber Eats. Firehouse Subs, BOGO Brisket Hat Trick, Kibo Sushi, BOGO California Roll, Shelby Shawarma, BOGO Traditional Wrap. That's right, buy one, get one. Before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. So suddenly the Maple Leafs have won 3 in a row. It's the Hall of Fame weekend. They got 2 more on this 4-game homestand. You got Boston and Carolina, and most specifically Fraser Minten to make his return to Toronto on Saturday night. It had me thinking about the Carlo Minten deal at last year's deadline while you were taking a piss, right?
Yes, during that. How long were we on the air for? Long enough. And then
Stream.
the one thing happened, I'm in the John, but yeah, he'll come back. We'll see what it looks like. Carlo, Minten and the Carlo deal. Carlo's not playing awesome right now, but I think lots of runway for him to get better. Minten, whatever. I'm certainly glad we held on to Cowan instead of Minten, to be honest with you. I think he's got a future in the NHL 100%, and we'll see what he looks like here. But I just can't believe how many home games they're playing. Like, are they going to go on a 3-week roadie here soon? Or like, what is the deal? They're going to, have to do the old minor league 3-weeker, but it seems like they're playing at home like crazy. Their home record all of a sudden looks fantastic. And 3-game heater. Like, it's just so funny. Like, it's only 2 games really. One of them they played horrendous for 2 of the periods on Monday against Pittsburgh. And now all of a sudden there's just sun shining down the Leafs and everyone's talking so high about Willie Nylander and everything else. It's pretty hilarious, but it is just nice to crawl out of that hole and start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for this team as they start to get better and acclimate to this season.
Yeah, by the end of the weekend, there'll have been 12 home games already for the Maple Leafs. They're 7-2-1 through 10. It's pretty crazy. It just seems like every game they'll have one on the road, then back home, back home, back home. And I think it's important for this team at some point in time to get on the road. So as mentioned, Fraser Minten now with Boston. He's played 15 games so far this season. 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. He is centering the third line with Tanner Jeannot, who they brought in, and Mark Kastelik, former Ottawa Senator. It's not like this guy is a top 6 center. I know there's some guys dinged up, namely Elias Lindholm. Both Lindholm's actually banged up for the Boston Bruins right now, but they've had an up and down type year. But I think sometimes people see Minten score and they're like, oh crap, like what a deal. I think Carlo is a guy who is measured more by what he does in the Stanley Cup playoffs in the regular season. I agree with you. He has not been good. I think he had shades. He had moments last year. I think he has elevated the game of Morgan Rielly. But he's that type of guy. You can't watch him game in and game out and make a, analysis or breakdown. I think this is more a guy you gauge on how he plays, how he does in the Stanley Cup playoffs, plain and simple. I know you got to get there, but he's not a guy you're looking at and saying, hey, this guy's a stat stuffer. If you don't notice Brandon Carlo, it's probably a good thing. And we did recall earlier this week, he did 2 massive block shots in the final minute against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, whatever. It's, you want them to be on the right trajectory. You want them to be influential in the game night in and night out. It's not always going to be the case, but like anyone in Toronto, you could do kind of whatever you want in the regular season. You assume you're going to get to the playoffs, and then if you do your damage there, that's all anyone's going to care about. That's all they're going to remember in the off season, and that's how you're going to be judged and how your contract's going to be weighted and your future in Toronto is going to be weighted. Do something big in the playoffs. I wish Carlo would play a little bit bigger. At 6'5", 220 maybe. Like, you're a monster. You should be kind of manhandling guys and driving them into the corner and finishing them and being really strong in front of the net. He doesn't quite play as big as he is, and I think people don't even notice that or really know that he's that big. But again, stay healthy, play simple, and just be prepared for the playoffs. It is what it is. I think with this back end, they're getting a little longer in the tooth, and injuries is going to be, maybe a factor. But if you can time it, and again, I hope we're not in a dogfight in the playoffs on like anything crazy, because I feel like we might need to like take some rest for these guys on the back end and make sure that game one of the playoffs, when that puck drops, we got our full roster exactly the way we want it with everyone 100% healthy, which is not always so easy to do.
I feel like it was a good deal for both sides. Like you look at Boston, they're retooling, reimagining their roster, if you want to call it that. But to get the first, to get Minten, I think that does a lot for their future. And from the Maple Leafs perspective, my retort would be, where are you finding a 6'5" right-handed shooting shutdown defenseman for around $3.8 million per season? They got retention in that deal for multiple years. I think the value's still there. I know people are unhappy. Everybody's looking for the next Larry Murphy on this roster. I believe in Carlo more than most people. And I think to find the value of that cap hit the way they did, I thought was great work. And you know what? Deals can work for both sides. And I think this is a deal that will work for both sides. I'm sure Boston would do it again. I'm sure Toronto would do it again, quite frankly.
Yeah, it depends. You got to find two teams that are in different stages of development. You know, Toronto's in a win now situation, and Boston is not. Therefore, they would value a prospect higher than we would, and vice versa. And we talked yesterday about like how hard do you pull the trigger and how much farm do you sell to win now, talking about Easton Cowan and whatnot. And you know, Fraser Minten's not going to help us right now or next year get to this promised land that they're desperately trying to get to. So I agree with you. The trade made sense at the time. You have to give something to get something of value, and with retention and his salary and the potential that he has to be a factor on this roster in a playoff run, you know, still way too soon to say that. If anyone actually had the reins and said let's go backwards on this, I think it would be a lot harder for those people to do that than they think when they're talking out loud.
Definitely. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And specifically at these two games this weekend, I think they just need better starts. I know the Maple Leafs have won 3 in a row to start the month of November, but this statistic is alarming. They've allowed the first goal in 7 straight games and 8 of 9. 12 of 14 of their games have hit the over this season. It's weird to say, but I would love to see like a 2-1 win, like a classic Berube style type game. To an extent, we saw it in Philadelphia last weekend. They pumped 5 on them, but defensively they were much more dialed in. I think to an extent we saw it against Utah, but I think it's still a work in progress with the D-zone turnovers and the pizzas and the muffins. And I think that's one stat I'd love to see reversed this weekend, is like score first and then get on the opponent. We've barely seen the Leafs play with a lead this year. It's weird.
It is kind of weird. Two things to me, and one of them you mentioned is start on time. Stop getting scored on first. I mean, the statistics on probability of winning the game when you get scored on first go down pretty drastically. So to put yourself behind that 8 ball day after game after game, like 8 of 9 and 7 and like, what are we doing here? Like, figure that shit out. And then secondly, get your power play going. If they stop having crummy starts and then get their power play going, you know, just watch everyone start calling them a wagon and everything. And I haven't even had Joseph Wall back. Like, there's so much potential to be the team that everyone wants this team to be. Just got to take care of a few things, and the season is a process, and you're constantly working on getting better. And those are two areas I think they could 100% start with. And I'm sure they've addressed it. And I'm sure Berube's frustrated with the fact that they haven't fixed it yet, and every game over and over and over, that's over half the season they're getting scored on first like clockwork. So fix that 100%. And then the power play is just, it's kind of quiet right now because they've been winning, but your numbers are pathetic when you have the likes of you're pretty well rounded. I mean, you got Demon that can kind of move it around up top. You got a Johnny T and how smart he is, kind of in the middle, net front with Matthew Nyes, and then Nylander and Matthews. Are you telling me you can't score more goals with that setup, with a man advantage and that much extra ice to work with? It's baffling, but it needs to get figured out because it'll solve a lot of problems if you can get that extra goal here and there on the power play. And if that percentage goes up, I think this team looks quite a bit different at the end of every 60 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else you can say. The Maple Leafs 4 for 34 on the power play. They're bottom 3 in the NHL aside from the Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes. And the one thing I'm noticing, and maybe it's the Pontus Holmberg effect, and you'll laugh, but that guy can draw penalties. They're not drawing penalties, dude. They're ranked 25th of 32 in the NHL. They've drawn 34 penalties, as opposed to the highest team, the Calgary Flames, have had 54 opportunities in 15 games. The Ducks at 54, the Bruins at 53. That's something to look for this weekend. The Bruins drop penalties, I guess.
Lovely. Yeah, I mean, when do you draw penalties? It's when you're working your bag off and coming out of corners and scrums and off walls and moving and getting into those dirty areas where a guy has to miss a step on you and reach and grab or hook or hold or trip, and you draw the penalties that way. That's all I can really say as far as trying to draw more penalties, but they're not getting the benefit of the doubt in too many things. And if your power play is that bad right now, it's almost like I don't mind, because they're just such a momentum killer when they get the opportunity and the other team kills it off, and then the guy jumps out of the box and away we go now. And it's but on the other hand, how do you get better at it? You need more reps. But this power play is like banging your head against the wall. Like, are you gonna, like, I don't really see the drastic changes that they've made or retooling, or I'm not in the meetings, obviously, that they have, but they must be like, hey, guys, this is insanity. This group should have more success in the power play. What are we doing wrong, and what are we doing to fix it? This has been a theme now with the power play, and I'm surprised we haven't seen more kind of drastic changes to at least their structure and setup.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think it's personnel. Like, how many different dudes are going to get a chance to run this power play? Mark Savard's running it right now, has for the last year and a half. Again, we've seen this episode for 10 years now, and it's just so pronounced. Like, I just laugh. They can never even enter the zone, never mind get an opportunity to score. And when they get the O-zone face-off, they can't win it. It's just been a massive drag, but it shows you how good this team can be, because even strength, they've been nails. They've been scoring goals, even strength. Imagine if you can just tack on a couple on the power play, where this team could look in the standings right now. But I think some good news too that we didn't talk about yesterday. We were around the game, in the Utah game, and it was great to see Chris Tanev walking around, man. Like, the fact that from Saturday he was stretchered off, spent the night in a Philadelphia hospital, to seeing him on a Wednesday night walking around the press box, walking around the room after the game, really feels like they dodged a bullet here, which is great news.
Yeah, that is news. I don't know how close to playing he is, but the fact that, as you mentioned, gets stretchered and you're overnight in the hospital sends a lot of alarm bells to you, no question. But we asked him how you doing. He's like, good. Like, we're not going to know for sure, but he's not laid up in a dark room somewhere. He's not having surgeons look at him left, right, and center. So by all accounts, that certainly could have been a lot worse news. Would love to see him back out there. I think he's kind of the staple that holds the D together, and without him, it's you're going to notice it big time. So hopefully he gets back to being good. I don't know if he rushed back or shouldn't have been playing yet, or what the story is, but I'm sure they're going to be, as they were, very cautious with him, grabbing the stretcher and keeping him overnight for tests and stuff like that. By all accounts, sounds like that was being overly cautious, which you can totally understand. And I imagine they will continue to follow that theme and not rush him back. But like you said, great to see him walking around normal. You couldn't tell anything was wrong with him at all from the eye test, which is kind of step number one. Now, hopefully he gets ready for NHL action as soon as possible and doesn't rush it and doesn't have any setbacks, and we can not talk about his health for the rest of the season, which would be ideal.
The big positive for me and I think this is out there, it's not a head injury, right? He was coming off a concussion, quote unquote. They never diagnosed it as that, but it was a head injury, an upper body injury. So that's the furthest we can tell you on that front. It's not a head problem with Chris Tanev. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. And I think you're right. I think a guy like this, you got to pace him, man. I remember specifically when they signed Tanev. I'm like, if you expect this guy to play 82 games in a season, you're going to be sadly mistaken. Last year, he actually played more than I expected. He's such a warrior, man. Like, it's crazy the way that guy plays the game compared to some other guys in this league. Like, I don't have to pinpoint specific names, but this guy will die for you. Like, he'll do whatever, any means necessary to win a hockey game. Like, we heard and watched Daryl Sutter talk, like his eyes lit up when we brought up Chris Tanev on the show. Like, you just need guys like this on your team. And he just seems like the prototypical teammate where it's like, he's going to be there thick and thin. And I just love the way this guy plays the game.
Yeah, some guys just feel like that's part of the job, like laying in front of the shots and getting in there and putting themselves on the line. It's just part of what they do, and whatever consequence or results from that is what it is, part of the job. And then there's other guys that are like, I know I'm supposed to, but there is no way I'm doing that. Like, guys get out of the way in Flamingo and pretend like they get in the shot lane. And it's, to me, it's a toughness character thing that some guys just don't have. And it's unfortunate. I think it holds players back. And you can't mention the name Tanev without people just singing his praises on how fantastic he is for his team back there and what he's willing to do that other people aren't. And always blows my mind. People don't see that and say, I can block a friggin' shot every once in a while just to get that to have my stock go up. Like some guys would, push their grandmother in traffic to get an extra $1 million on their contract, but you won't block a shot. It kind of blows my mind. But you look at a guy like him, absolutely does it the right way.
Speaking of which, I thoroughly enjoyed watching the Vegas Tampa game on Thursday night. So Hall of Fame weekend at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. What do you remember about playing some of these guys? Zdeno Chara, Duncan Keith, Alex Mogilny. What a fucking legend that guy is. Joe Thornton. I think it's cool. Every time there's like a class and there's some guys who have played for the Leafs, I mean, it raises eyebrows. For me, Mogilny's the big one because I grew up in that era, the Pat Quinn era, and seeing Elmo on the Leafs was insane. Although I don't think I remember the last time I saw Alexander Mogilny physically in Toronto. I think it's been 20 years.
Yeah, well, the first thing that comes up is I was 20 years old, my first year pro in Springfield, and we played against Alexander Mogilny. He was down in the minors his last year in playing hockey, I believe. And I remember just seeing that 89 Mogilny on it. I think it was with the Albany Devils I think it was with the Devils.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
You're right.
Nonetheless,
Yeah.
Just seeing, like being a kid, I was playing Tier 2 junior in Alberta a year and a half before, and it was like, holy shit, I know that name. Like, that's a legendary name, and now I'm playing against him. It was kind of that holy welcome to pro type of moment where I just totally thought it was so cool to say I played against Alexander Mogilny. And yeah, he has been snubbed every year since. And kind of the main guy that stood out is, why the hell is this guy not in the Hall of Fame? You rattle off his numbers and talk about his resume, and you almost feel like there's something else going on there where they're snubbing him on purpose. Yeah. And now the funny caveat is that he's not even going to show up to the ceremony. And a lot of people think it's a big middle finger to the Hall in general. But I also know that he has notoriously been a terrified flyer, like cannot stand flying, puddle jumping, from Boston to Philly. Yet he's got to come all the way across the Atlantic. Maybe that has something to do with it, but nonetheless, for all the people waiting for him to get into the Hall, they're not going to actually see him in the induction, which is kind of an eyebrow raiser.
Was that more common than we think, people who just hated flying? Like, did you see that a lot in your playing days?
Yeah, like I think Bozak for sure, Phil as well. Like any sound the engine makes or like a bit of turbulence, they're looking around, and I was always just like, what? Like making it worse for them. They're like, fuck off, Rosie. Seriously, Rosie. I'm like, dude, like, you don't do this on the highway, and people get splattered against their windshield every day. Like, settle down. So I didn't really get it, but yeah, more people than you think do not like flying. And when you're comfortable and on your own plane and stuff, I'm sure there's people on a in a commercial flight that just keep to themselves, but those guys were kind of vocal about it and like really didn't like flying, not to the point where they wouldn't get on a plane, but you hear those stories where guys will drive because they hate being on airplanes that much.
I always remember the nation vacation last year in Nashville. I think I sat beside you on the way home from Nashville to Toronto, and we hit a rough patch of turbulence. And I fly quite a bit. Still, I get anxiety. I was hungover too, so that doesn't help. And you're in your rocking chair, man. Nothing. You're like, man, it's fine. It's all good. And you just moved on. You're like Dave Pagnotta. When I travel with that guy, dude, he passes out before the plane even takes off, and he wakes up when it lands. Like, it's insanity to me. Like, there could be something crazy could happen. Dave wouldn't even know what happened. I wish I can get to that level because I can't sleep on planes. Like, I'm probably that type of person who, if I ever played in a professional league or a professional sport and I had to travel place to place, I would not be good because I couldn't. You have to be able to sleep on planes. Like, you have to get your sleep in, right?
Well, I have a funny story about that it reminds me. Remember Joey Crabb played on the Leafs?
Yeah.
He's from Anchorage, Alaska. Unbelievably good guy. He told this story where him and his buddies were going to Australia from Alaska, right? And he had a middle seat, and he's like, God, this is brutal. And his buddy's like, hey, like, take this pill. It'll help you sleep. So anyway, he takes the pill. He doesn't even remember taking off. And then he wakes up. He's like, oh, his buddies are having a drink. So he kind of climbs out, excuse me, to the guy beside him, goes out to his buddies, and they're like, hey, have a drink or whatever. So he has a rum and Coke with his buddies and whatever. And then he's like, oh man, yeah, that was good. He's like, yeah, you like that? You want another one? He's like, well, I had a pretty good sleep. Oh, I don't know. I'll try another one. He doesn't even know what it was to this day. Probably, Ambien or whatever, something like that. But he'd never taken sleeping pills. Yeah. So he takes another one. 10 minutes later, he's like feeling kind of woozy. So he has to use the chairs to get back to his seat, sits down again, and then the wheels hit the tarmac, and he's in Australia. And this is a 16-hour flight, I think.
Yeah.
And he wakes up, and he was awake for all of 15 minutes for the whole flight. And he's like, oh, and he comes to, and the guy beside him is staring at him, and he goes, man, can you sleep? Can you imagine sitting beside a guy for 16 hours and he just KO'd the whole time? I always laugh. I'm like, that's the way to go to Australia, I think, Joey Crab. But yeah, some guys might need to do that because they can't handle flying.
Man, that's a dream. Like I told you, I go to Europe quite a bit. And this past summer, I went to my doctor. I'm like, dude, like this is killing me. I fly the red eye over. I don't sleep. I get there. I get buckled. I'm just absolutely in a pickle, you know, having not slept for like 36 hours. And so he prescribes me lorazepam. I take not one pill, but 2 pills. It doesn't work. My body rejects anything. Like I got to figure something out for my next big trip. I want to do Japan next summer. I don't know how the hell I'm doing Japan. Okay. Like that's going to be a way longer flight, multiple flights, but I just want something that's going to knock me out for a few hours. I've never slept on a plane. It's crazy, man. So I get it.
Oh, that is weird. You'd think one of those, I don't know, back in our day, like, I keep saying Xanax, not Xanax. It's Ambien. That was the hot sleeping pill. And man, there were guys that could not sleep without 2 Ambien. And like, those are heavy duty sleepers.
Yeah.
And I won't mention names, but there'd be like, the trainer would be at the edge of the plane on the door with his handful, and he'd be like, "There's 10s here and 5s over here," and guys would just grab them, and the team would be like, "Yeah, we want our guys sleeping well, but you get hooked on those, and then you can't sleep without them, and you start off only taking them on game days, and then you need them all the time." And bad news. But I have heard of people where it just stuff doesn't work on them with their whatever's going on with their body, like you, where it just doesn't do anything. My wife's like that too. She'll take a cold pill and it keeps her up all night instead of putting her down. But life goes on, man. You're traveling. You're going to be okay.
It's a dream, man. It's a dream. I know AC Parker 13 in the chat saying it's a 15 to 16-hour flight from Toronto to Tokyo. That's going to be fun. I need to go to my doctor for that one. But anyways, getting back to the story here on Leafs Morning Take out the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You got any Chara stories? Like, that guy is such a mutant. And I know there's been a lot of conversation. I'm sure you've seen this. There is a prospect coming up the pipeline. I don't know what his name is off the top of my head, but I think he's like 7'7". This guy ever makes the show. Imagine playing that guy in the modern day NHL. Guys would just skate off the ice.
I think he's just 7 feet tall, isn't he? Or is he bigger than that? Yeah, I think he's playing college right now, and he can move. He doesn't look like a moron out there. He looks like proportionate and everything, and he can move. Interesting enough. I remember they had to change the longest stick length rule in the NHL specifically for Chara. I remember carrying the puck near him and being like, oh my God, he's way over there and his stick is already in your way there. And then one time I went to hit him in the corner and it was just a brick shit house. Like you don't move him, you don't nudge him, you just hit him and go, oh, that was really solid. But what a fantastic career, what a leader. I remember when he came in, people were kind of like, yeah, I don't know if this big weird looking guy is going to get her done. And then Hall of Fame career, unbelievable. Good for him. You knew that was coming, so it's good to see him honored. And Jumbo Joe, and who else got in there besides Amo?
Jennifer Botterill, Chara, Brianna Decker, Duncan Keith, Almo, Joe Thornton. Duncan Keith was so steady on that blue line. Oh.
Yeah, him and Seabrook back there. That kind of a modern day dynasty with 3 cups, I believe, for the Chicago Blackhawks during that era. They were unbelievable. You go to Chicago, that madhouse, it was so loud in there, and
it was a guaguaranteed loss every time you went there.
Yeah, coached by Quenneville. Like, they had all the right stuff. What good years that was. And then I'd skate, not very often, but if I was in Kelowna or the area, I'd skate with Shenner like once or twice, and Duncan Keith was there. It was just an all-star lineup of guys in that Kelowna skate. But all around good guy by all accounts, and very worthy of being in the Hall after his career, no doubt.
Yeah, doing my stuff with the NHL a couple years ago at the Stanley Cup Final, I had a chance to meet Duncan Keith and interview him for our YouTube live show. He is such a good dude and so down, like just in a permanent rocking chair, and that's the way he played the game. By the way, I found this kid. He's a 7-foot prospect. You nailed it. He's 7'1", around 280. Plays in my neck of the woods. Plays for the Brantford Titans in the GOJHL, a step below the O. He's a commit to Penn State, enrolling in 2027. But imagine if this guy makes the show. He's 17 right now.
Oh, that's young, man. Yeah, I saw him online.
What
Came
does he
across
eat?
my feed. He doesn't look weird. Like, you'd think a 7-foot skater would look ridiculous, but he looks proportionate. Looks like he can move. He doesn't look awkward. And I mean, Jesus, if you can do that and keep working on your game and have any sense of the game, like, how much can you defend? He's a defenseman, correct?
Yes.
You could defend everything, and your stick is huge. You could take one stride and take a guy out in the corner from the net front. Interesting guy to watch. So yeah, check that kid out and follow his career along. I think it might be interesting. Penn State's no joke of a program. So I hope they're going to get their claws in him and get him developed, because it'd be fun to watch a guy like that.
My lasting memory of Zdeno Chara is when I thought Max Pacioretty had died. I'm not kidding. Do you remember that hit? Like
He killed him.
Well, it instituted the new boards, the new glass. Remember when he hit him and it was like, forgot what that was called. Like,
the stanchion.
Yeah, man.
The turnbuckle.
I could not believe that. Yeah, it was like a turnbuckle shot. It was like perfect timing. And it's like, that gave you the realization how strong Zdeno Chara is, man. Like, Max Pacioretty's not a small dude. He just like brushed him off. Like, he was crazy, that guy.
The conversation on whether he meant to or not. I remember like that turnbuckle thing. Like, it's so funny. Like, in the 80s, they had just a piece of like aluminum or steel there, and you just clock that when you're running. Like, you're running full speed towards it. Then they put a pad on it, like the turnbuckle, and they're like, there, fixed it. And then the Pacioretty thing happened. Now it's a curved piece of plexiglass in a bit of a case, and it's got springs all along the outside. So when you press it, it goes, wah, 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 wah. And I don't know, I guess that's as good as they can get. But a weird kind of phenomenon there with an odd part of the rink. And yeah, it's usually an injury or a big spotlight shone on something like that creates the change. And that was the Pacioretty Chara hit. I remember everyone like arguing, did he mean to or not? And I remember thinking, he didn't not know that the turnbuckle was right there. And yeah, what a competitor Chara is, man. It's going to be cool to see that induction here soon, because a lot of good players in it, obviously.
Yeah, the police, I remember, were after Chara. Like, it was crazy, man. Like,
Really?
we thought Pacioretty was cooked, man. That was such a monstrous hit. But was there ever a point when you played Chara where you're like, man, I might have to go this guy tonight? Did you ever contemplate asking him to go? Like, anybody who fought that guy, I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, I thought about it if it happened. I remember when guys fight him, they would try to hide from him and get as far away as possible. It's like, that's not going to do it. We know how strong he is. Like, the fitness testing award in Boston was for the guy that got second, and it was called the Zdeno Chara Award, and that's what they gave it because you knew Chara was going to win it every time without fail. He was a freak. They just tell him to stop doing pull-ups when he'd get to like 40 and 45, and it's just insane. But I remember thinking, he doesn't get hit very often, so I would go lefts and I'd get in tight and just furiously just try to land on his face, because he doesn't ever get hit, and everyone tries to hide from him, and he just stands up tall and he's in complete control. I don't feel like he'd been in too many times where he was actually getting hit and a guy really getting inside on him. And it's weird feeling like I'm like the small guy trying to get inside. That's usually the little guy's MO against a taller guy, but it never happened. And it would be the whole game plan might go out the window once you get in the arms of that monstrosity. So it's funny. I always kind of wonder what would happen if we did go. But for most of the part, he would want to keep me on the ice and not take himself off to go me.
Yeah, that's probably a good trade off for your team, not so much for Chara's team. But what about Jumbo, just to wrap? I thought it was so cool to see Joe Thornton in a Maple Leafs jersey. In fact, that year, I thought the Maple Leafs are really good. It was that weird-ass bubble season. They finally won the division and just couldn't put it together. We all know the story in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Damn Montreal, I think it was that year, and blowing that. But is that a good barometer? Like, I hate to say it, and there's still plenty of ball game left. John Tavares chasing that Stanley Cup, but is that, if you're JT, you look at Joe Thornton, you look at his career, and are like, hey, like, even if I don't win this cup, I think he's getting in to begin with, because you look at the point total, you look at the goals, but I mean, that's a perfect example of a guy who the hardware is not there in terms of a Stanley Cup, but had a legendary career, right?
Yeah, for sure. But that's the deal with those guys is, it's awesome to see him get in the Hall of Fame anyway. I remember when he was first overall to Boston back in the day, you'd watch the Rock'em Sock'ems in the TV, and
Yeah.
you knew who he was there, and had a great career. And again, like we talked yesterday, it's that but he never won a cup. Yeah, but he never led anyone to a championship. Yeah, but he doesn't have a ring. And that's shitty. And that's the way, that's life, man. You can't guarantee yourself just because you're a good player. I mean, it's a team sport. It's not like it's basketball where if you're that good, you can literally just surround yourself with a little bit and you can get the job done quite often. You just don't find yourself in the position to, be lucky enough to be on a team that's championship caliber. So you can only hold it against him so much. But if John doesn't get a ring, and I sure as hell hope he does, and I hope he gets one this year, there's still a road to the Hall of Fame, no doubt.
Were you on that Leafs team when Kadri fought Thornton and grabbed a piece of his beard? Do you remember that?
Oh, I do remember that. Should look at what year that is. I 100% remember it. I just can't remember if I was on the team or not. That would be,
I think it was a couple years after.
It's like the NFL players with hair down to their ass. It's like if a guy's going to tackle you, they're going to end up pulling your hair at some point in time. And Jumbo Joe had that beard like this. Like if you're fighting, how do you not accidentally grab? There's times where you're reaching and when fists are flying and you grab whatever.
There it is.
Like, see, his beard is covering right on the crest where you grab that collar. Yeah, good for Nas, man. What a beast. I like that kid, man. I love the way that kid plays with such vigor.
It really, this week, put life into perspective, man. Like, I'm getting there. I was covering the London Knights when Kadri and Tavares were on the team together. Like, they picked up JT from Oshawa. They were looking to go on a monster run. One of my buddies was actually acquired from Peterborough. He was the goalie on the team. Like, they were stacked. And Windsor, they ran into Windsor. But to see Nazem Kadri get to 1,000 games, JT to 500 goals, like, these guys are getting there. Like, the Kadri conversation is going to get bigger and bigger. But I think ultimately a lot of people think of Kadri and they're like, this guy's 30, dude. He's 35. He's still a really, really good player. But what a marvelous career. You played with the guy, too.
Yeah, I remember when he was... Did he come to the league at 18?
Yeah,
he was only 18 years old.
Yeah,
I remember he had a shootout goal. It might even have been in preseason, and they were interviewing him, and he said, "Yeah, that move's been my bread and butter for a long time." And everyone's like, "Your bread and butter? You're 18 years old. What are you talking about?" And then he did a few interviews with his shirt off, which now by Willie standards is okay, but at that time he didn't really do that. And then he cruised into the gym and started doing squats in bare feet, and everyone's like, "What do you?" So I remember him having to learn a little bit and just being young, and it honestly helped him just kind of being oblivious of like the little nuances of what's supposed to happen, because sometimes those guys flourish because they don't overthink things. They don't hide in the corner. They don't say, "Oh, this isn't my place." They just get in there and do it and get her done, and that's kind of the mentality sometimes that leads to a lot of success, which obviously Nas has had his entire career. And yes, it's tough to look at him and go, "You're 35. I still think of you as like 29, 30, but time keeps ticking. Same thing I was talking about with Schenner, being the wily old veteran, looking like the old school guy saying how you have to win games and whatnot. And it just seems like not long ago he got traded from LA to Philly and was that young prospect hotshot come up and comer, and Stanley Cup champion now, wily veteran. It's funny, man. Life doesn't wait for anybody, and your career goes by fast.
It still haunts my dreams. I was on NHL Network Radio. I think it was July 2nd or July 1, and it comes across the wire live on air. Nazem Kadri traded to the Colorado Avalanche, and I'm like, you got to be shitting me. Who are they getting back? And Tyson Barrie's part of the return, Kerfoot, and I'm like, what a reactionary move. And here we are 10 years later talking about the Maple Leafs, their need for Kadri getting stronger and tougher to play against in the playoffs. And they had a guy who who couldn't tame it down. I rather a guy like that couldn't tame it up. Like some of these guys, you wonder if they even have a pulse when it gets to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And Kadri's like your prototypical playoff performer. And if you recall, the first couple postseasons, he got suspended. It was like a trademark. Every postseason, Kadri would sit for a couple games, but man, he brought it, that dude.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I think it's a lot better to have to pull back on the reins than it is to have to crack the whip. He had it in spades, and we've been talking about intensity and competitiveness and letting your emotions just run wild and translating that to your play. That's usually what the team that wins the Stanley Cup looks like. They're not a bunch of fancy pants is sticking to the outside, making the fancy plays all the way to the NHL. It's just not the way it is, man. And Kadri had that. I remember when they kind of ran him out of town because they'd had enough of him getting suspended by, the bad hits. And he's so committed to the hit. The guy turns his back. He buries him from behind. And at the time, the league didn't give a shit, man. You're sitting, you're watching. So I remember that. Now you're looking at, that the team could absolutely use him. It's just a matter of how can they get him and what do they have to sacrifice to do so.
Kadri was great. He would Darcy Tucker a guy once at playoffs, and it's like you knew he was so horny to win in Toronto, and they dealt the guy who was horny to win in Toronto and ready to win in Toronto, and here we are again years later. But anyways, it's going to be an age-old conversation in this market, and fingers crossed, maybe one day Nazem Kadri is a Maple Leaf again. It's time now for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION, NATION. Must be 19 or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you're someone you know has a gambling problem, visit connexontario.ca. Something I might look at this weekend is Austin Matthews to score on Sunday against Carolina. I know it's random, but it's the Hall of Fame game. Joe Thornton, his boy, is going to be there. I'm sure Matthews is going to be all over the Hall of Fame speeches on Monday. He's probably going to be in attendance for that, you would have to think, although the Leafs are in Boston. But I think on Tuesday, I think Matthews could make a play in that. I think he scores this weekend. I think he's been hot. Tonight's slate, I'm taking an Artemi Panarin point. Did you know that guy's pointless in 6 straight games? Artemi Panarin, contract here, Artemi Panarin. So I'm going to play that. I think I found it around -130 for Panarin. The Rangers in Detroit. Detroit coming back after a long Western road trip. So I think they'll be a bit sluggish out of the gates there.
Ooh, yeah, I was looking at that one. It's pretty, they're evenly matched as far as 365 is concerned. Who did you take, Rangers or Detroit?
I'm taking a Panarin anytime point. I don't care who wins that game.
What a gross slate, man.
Florida hit last night, though, eh? The Panthers?
They looked good last night. I did not.
I had them, the bounce back win last night.
Yeah, we took that. Oh, so they did, eh? Yeah. What was that score?
Yeah. I think they beat them 4-2, LA.
Nice. Yeah, you knew that wasn't going to last. You look at the league standings, you're like, I don't think the Panthers are going to hang out here too much longer. I'm going to do a little the parlay with Matthews and Nylander anytime point. They're both hot. Nylander looks as good as he ever has, and I think Matthews is really finding it too, and they need them to hit their stride, and I think you'll get some decent money on the parlays. So that's my pick for this Friday.
If you want a long shot for Saturday, I know it rarely happens, but maybe Brandon Carlo goal against the Boston Bruins. I'm certainly playing Fraser Minten to pick up a point or an assist, or he's going to do something. We all know that's coming. I just wonder if the video tribute's coming. He played like a handful of games as a Maple Leaf, but I digress. Looking forward to the weekend, looking forward to Monday. I believe your old teammate Tomas Kaberle is going to drop by the show on Monday, Rosie.
Tomas is? That's good. Yeah, the old short stick, man. That's one thing that blows my mind about him standing on the blue line. His stick came up to like barely his waist, and he would just play like that. The only guy I ever saw in my entire life before or since, and an unbelievable D-man with a really short stick. So, yeah, it'd be good to talk to him and pick his brain about this team.
I got a guy I play beer league with. We call him Caberlet because he won't shoot the puck. You played with Caberlet. He could have a wide open net. He tried to pass the puck, but him and McCabe, that combo on the blue line, you talk about power play quarterbacks, Thomas Caberlet. So we're going to talk to him coming up. We'll ask him about playing with Alex Mogilny as well. So that's coming up on Monday. Full recap of these two games, the back-to-back on home ice, Boston and Carolina. Have a great weekend, Rosie.
Yeah, you too. Appreciate it. Looking forward to that slate and bang off these home games while we've got them.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. Don't forget to check out the Leafs Nation After Dark over the weekend, a twin bill with the Boston game, the Carolina game, the Leafs Nation 401. Again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk on Monday. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.